Well, hello everyone. Welcome to World at War Comics. My next guest, Mr. Sheldon Allen, writer of Concrete Jungle, Snatched, Crucified, and then of course They Choose Violence, which we're going to talk about today. Yes, we got issue 2 out with issue 3 coming really quick. But Sheldon, before we jump into that, how are you today?
Man, I'm chilling, man. I cannot complain. As long as I'm here, I'm good.
I'm glad you're here, my friend. I'm glad you're here, man. Well, it's great to meet you. Like I said, I was able to get into the first couple issues, and we certainly want to talk about that. We got issue 3 coming up, but I always like to kind of go way back, and I love to kind of talk to you about where this passion for storytelling began in your life, and was there anybody in your life that really encouraged you in the storytelling?
Yeah, man. So I probably got into comics like years ago. I'm probably aging myself a little bit here. They used to have like these Marvel like trading cards back in the day, and all the kids used to go crazy for them. And coming up, everybody knows like your basic hero. You know Spider-Man, you know Hulk, but then you start seeing these other guys like, oh wait, who's this Wolverine guy? Before he was like mainstream or anything like that, and it's like, oh wait, who's this guy right here, the Silver Surfer? The Fantastic Four. He's like, wait, these guys know Spider-Man, and these guys know Hulk. And so you slowly start to get into it. You get beyond the pictures on the cards, and you actually read the back. And you're like, wait, there's like actual books that tell these stories, and there's backgrounds. And so you start going to the little convenience stores when they used to sell comic books in the better days in the gas stations.
Right.
Yeah, you can just get them at the rack at the gas stations, and you just slowly start to get into it, and you just sort of fall in love with the medium. And I've always had a passion for just media in general, just stories. Whether it be books, movies, TV shows. So I kind of sort of always had that passion and always wanted to tell my own stories. And you just sort of fall in love with these characters, and you kind of develop your own stories. And fast forward a couple years, I was fortunate enough. My first published book was actually a Spider-Man comic book,
Yeah.
um,
The Unlimited.
Spider-Man Unlimited. Yep, it
Yep.
was Spider-Man Unlimited. I always tell the story that the guy who did the backup story, Scott Gimple, he's actually like the showrunner of the entire like Walking Dead universe now. So they had like some heavy hitters on that little Unlimited run. Actually, there's a couple of other heavy hitters that they had in some of the other issues as well. And so I started off with a Spider-Man book, and I kind of sort of fell out of it a little bit. Life starts lifing, and then I got back into it about 2018, doing my own creator-owned work, and it's just been a journey ever since.
Man, normally when you talk to people who write comic books, Spider-Man is
Uh,
not one of the first titles that they jump into. Like, how does that happen? I mean, that's pretty incredible to go from a fan and then your first title is one of the probably the most popular comic book characters in all of comicdom.
it's so rare. I mean, I doubt it would ever happen again unless you like know somebody like pure nepotism. Uh, I'm not gonna lie to you. It was just sheer luck. I was able to figure out the editor's email, and I sent them a blind a query, and they responded to the pitch, and I signed a little, maybe signed a little, legal document and all that other stuff, submission guidelines, and I sent them the script, and it's like, yeah, we're gonna publish it, and they published it with almost zero changes, just a couple little changes here, which actually made the book better, if I'm being honest with you. It's actually crazy because at the time I wrote it, they were relaunching the Avengers.
Mm.
Business was relaunching the Avengers with David Finch with New Avengers, and it was just like a big secret about who the new Avengers were going to be, and the Avengers were kind of off off limits for any books at the time. And there's actually a little Avengers cameo in the book, and they actually let it stand. They kind of cheated a little bit where they just put like Captain America and Iron Man, which are going to be a part of any Avengers team. But yeah, it was pretty cool. They let me get away with a lot. The issue is actually Spider-Man getting his ass kicked like pretty badly by the Rhino, and yeah, man, it was just sheer luck. Like I said, I was able to kind of figure out the email system at Marvel, and I just sent the blind email in, and it worked out for me.
Yeah, sometimes you hear stories of people getting a hold of an email. To be honest, that's why they're very
Mhm.
protective of that kind of stuff because
Right.
everyone's trying to throw a pitch, man. So for you to crack that code, Man, whoever's gonna listen to this is gonna try and figure out Tom Brevoort's email or something like that and start sending
That's
emails.
you're gonna get mad at me, but that's actually the editor who I hit up was Tom
Is
before.
he? I figured. I mean, Tom's a good dude, man. I've had him on the podcast
Yeah,
before, but yeah, that's hilarious. It was Tom when I just threw that name out there, but that's hilarious.
yeah. I was on a little roll back then. I'm trying to tell you, I some of the emails I sent and actually got responses, not good responses, more responses like, "Hey, we're good, thank you."
Yeah.
But just the fact that I was able to crack the system, I remember I hit up Kevin Feige right when the MCU was started to launch. And he's like, "Oh, thank you, but we're good." I was like, "Wow." Like I'm cracking these email systems, man. So I just got to get somebody to give me the thumbs up. But yeah, luckily it kind of sort of all worked out for me, so I can't really complain.
Yeah, I would have to say that's probably the best scenario to start your career in comics is to be able to
Right.
write a Spider-Man story. So congrats on that, man. That's crazy.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Now, growing up, man, as you got into comics or actually just storytelling in general, did you start building out kind of storylines for some of your favorite characters to begin with, or did you jump right into creating some of your own stories? Like what came first?
Man, it was always creating for other characters, and it was almost always exclusively either Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Um, that was my guy. He's top three. He's not exactly my favorite hero, but Spider-Man's kind of like the default Marvel hero, kind of sort of. So like almost all my stories, sort of revolved around Spider-Man or some variant of Spider-Man. And I didn't really get into like my own stuff until like years later when I became like an adult.
Yeah.
And it's so funny, like, I salute the guys who write Spider-Man and Batman and Superman and all these iconic characters because I'm not sure I could do it on a monthly basis right now. Even if they were to approach me, I'd like it might have to be like a one shot or like a limited series or something like that. I'm not even sure I could even do it now and come up with stories for other people's characters.
Yeah. I wonder too, like once you start writing your own characters and you're able to take life experiences and bring in stories of your own, if that doesn't just
Mhm.
take precedent over trying to write somebody else's character anyways, right? When you start to tap into stories that are super relatable and kind
Uh-huh.
of take a little bit of your heart, I feel like sometimes that could even replace that desire to write. Maybe it comes back over time when you're able to kind of release some of that. I don't know if that makes sense to you or if I'm just like jobbling up on my words, but I feel like if you're able to do that, man, it almost like replaces that desire, right, to write for something else.
Well, if you look at my creator-owned books, they're almost all like reality based. I have a couple science fiction ones. I'm gonna get into more genre, books down the line. But the majority of my books, they're kind of reality based or take place in some sort of reality.
Hmm.
I've come up with concepts of superheroes, creator-owned superheroes, and I'm oh man, that would work so much better as a Batman book, or that would work so much better as a Superman book, or that would work better as a Spider-Man book, and I just lose interest. I don't even want to do it anymore. So like yeah, like the vast majority of my books, that's why they're reality based.
Yeah.
And yeah, they are based on sort of life experiences or the things that are happening around us or the things that I see down the horizon. So, that's kind of sort of how my mind is operating when it comes to creation and just coming up with these stories.
Yeah, yeah, it makes perfect sense. I've had the opportunity to talk to Axel a couple times with AWA, and I feel like AWA is one of those publishers that really pushes the envelope and really looks for those stories that I think a lot of other publishers probably wouldn't give a chance to, because they're
Mhm.
touching on, and we could talk about they choose violence, but touching on topics that aren't super popular to talk about, but they probably need to be talked about, right? And I feel
Uh-huh.
like AWA is one of those publishers that are more than willing to kind of go there. I'm not too sure too many other publishers are willing to kind of do that type of thing. I don't know if you agree with that or
Well, I think that and this isn't an attack on anybody
yeah, no, for
at
sure.
all. So
Yeah,
it's not an
absolutely.
attack on anybody at all. What I'm about to say, but I think that the business model for the majority of these comic publishers, creator owned, corporate owned, is it's essentially they're just doing movie pitches.
Yeah.
They're just doing movie pitches, and so when you're trying to pitch something, to Hollywood or movies, you don't want it to be too controversial. There's certain topics you want to avoid, subject matter that you want to avoid. So, you want to kind of limit your risk as far as, what you're putting into the story, at least content wise or subject matter wise, I should say. Content wise, it's kind of anything goes, but subject matter wise, there's a lot of sensitivity to certain things. And I would say that AWA and Axel in particular, they're not scared of those things.
Yeah.
They embrace those things. They're willing to take those things head on. And the thing is that what you'll find out is that, Hollywood, they are receptive to these things,
Yeah.
these subject matter. It all comes down to execution
Yeah.
at the end of
Point.
the day. It comes down to execution and how it's done. And so, you know, they choose violence and some of the other books that AWA is publishing. There's no other publisher that would be putting those books out. There's no other publisher that would be daring enough to put those books out. You look at some of these other publishers, that are majority creator owned. Even then, they would say, "Hey, we can't touch this subject matter. We just prefer to kind of sort of stay away from that." And so Axel, from his time at Marvel, he has experience dealing with some of these books and some of these topics and successfully pitching them to Hollywood. And if you think of some of the things that he spearheaded, he's like 10 years ahead
Yeah.
of everybody else. He's like legitimately like 10 years ahead of everybody else. Like you don't see it. Sometimes even the creator themselves doesn't see it, but he has the vision. He can see where it's coming. He's almost prophetic with these
Yeah.
things. So, I couldn't have thought of a better home for Day Choose Vibes. It's actually pretty much the only place that I took it because I knew it was the only place that would be willing to, take on that responsibility and handle it with care and with some sort of courage.
Yeah. Yeah. No, great point. Great point. Now, when you talk about influences that you've had from other writers, are there other comic book writers that you've kind of looked up to? Probably even like in the last 5 years, but even growing up, like who are those kind of folks that you really look to and go, man, that's the type of writer I would like to be.
So my guy when I was coming up was Eric Larson,
Yeah.
who was probably known more so for the penciler, but he was a writer too,
Yeah.
and that was my guy. I still periodically return to some of his older stuff, his Spider-Man run, his Savage Dragon run, because the thing is with these older writers, especially the writers and the artists who did, they wrote what they drew. These guys are masters of economy. These guys could tell entire sagas in 22 pages. These guys were just incredible with their page count and the amount of information that they could pack into it. And it's still something that honestly I'm still trying to crack the code for and try to learn. So that was like my guy coming up. But then I kind of fell out of comics a little bit, grew out of it a little bit.
Mhm.
And then when I got back into it, it's probably Garth Ennis who kind of was probably the big factor in drawing me back in. The book that really got me back in was Grant Morrison's New X-Men,
Mm.
and that's the one that drew me in. But I started slowly getting into Ennis, who I didn't really know about, and like to this day, I've always said if you just made a level playing field and you took any writer that you wanted, and we assume they're all on their A game, everybody's on their A game. Nobody's touching Ennis, in my opinion. Nobody could touch him. Everybody's on their A game.
Yeah.
Nobody's messing with him.
I have to agree with that, man. Ennis is like
Yeah.
he's at a different level, right? There's levels to everything, right? And he's definitely
Uh,
at a different level for sure, man. And a career that has been absolutely amazing. And I do, Eric Larson, I don't think gets enough love for what he accomplished because when he got the Spider-Man run, right, Todd McFarlane, who exploded on Spider-Man, had just left. He took over. And I don't think people realize how good his run was with Spider-Man, his art. Like to
uh-huh.
take over for Todd, I don't think you realize how good Eric was until he took over Spider-Man. You're like, man, he's
Hmm.
at that level, man. It's just absolutely incredible. And obviously, Savage Dragon, he's getting close to what 300 issues here pretty soon. Like that's insane, man. 30 years of drawing the same character, writing, like he does it all, man. I mean, that's pretty impressive. So I think those are two pretty good folks to
Hmm.
look up to for sure, Sheldon.
Nah, man. Yeah, I agree with you about Larson as well because the task to follow McFarlane, that's like following Jordan almost. No matter how good you are, you're always going to be compared to that stature. Like McFarlane's Spider-Man is just it's just an iconic run. And that's back in the day when these books were selling like a million copies.
Yeah.
And for him to still take that torch and still rise to the occasion, and the quality didn't drop, and then he can make it his own. He I salute him.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, let's jump into They Choose Violence, man, because I think this title is very unique to the comic landscape. And you're touching on some topics that could be very uncomfortable for a lot of people. And you even, I think it was at the end of issue one, you have like 2 pages of just kind of laying the story out and telling everybody, take a deep breath, man. Just kind of be open. It's going to go in an
Yeah.
area that you probably think you already know where it's going, but
Uh-huh.
trust me, it's not going in that direction. But certainly, there's topics that make people feel uncomfortable, and you really wanted to open up this title to everybody, no matter where you are on the political spectrum. Just kind of be open to receive it. And then once you get to that issue five, right, you can make up your mind, but at least give
Yeah.
it that opportunity because there's a story in here you probably think you know, but you don't know, right? And I can't wait for issue three and to continue on because I feel like there's already a little shift taken. We could jump into it with these three women
Mhm.
that it gets crazy, bro. I mean, I have to admit, man, it gets pretty insane. It's like Punisherist a little bit,
Uh-huh.
obviously for completely different reasons, right? But
Uh-huh.
there is kind of that feel like we're going to take the law in our own hands because we feel like the law has failed us, right?
Right. So yeah, I would say this issue coming up, issue three, it's the issue that, all right, that's when everything's gonna kind of sort of turn on its head. And even then, when you get to issue four, you're gonna be like, okay, I thought I knew where it was going. And then issue three happened, and I thought I knew where it was going. And now I'm in issue four, and okay, like, yeah, I need to go ahead and get to issue five. And so um I don't want to say what my overall point I'm trying to make with the book is, but I'll try to, even if I am, I'm not even really sure I'm trying to make a point. Um, Other than I shouldn't really say this before the book is over, but vigilanteism is bad.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing, no matter what the root cause of it is, no matter what the rationale behind it is. If you want to peg me to any sort of political stance based on that book, that would be it. Vigilanteism is bad. That's other than that, you're just interpreting or you're assuming this is what I believe or don't believe. But I can tell you definitively, I don't like vigilanteism. I don't think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, some of the places we go with this book, it's just a reflection of where I saw us going because I wrote it years ago. I even wrote it before COVID, and COVID kind of sort of just heightened some of these feelings that I was having. But I said in several interviews before, it's just that I just feel like we're just becoming a meaner society. We're becoming a nastier society, and we're becoming more open to dehumanizing people. And when you dehumanize a person, it makes it easier to inflict violence upon them. And I'm not really sure some of us are prepared for what that violence looks like should we go down that road. So this is kind of sort of just a little bit of a story that would kind of show that. Um, I've always been clear though. I've always told everybody whenever talking about the book, nobody's trying to nobody's trying to send a message here.
Yeah.
Nobody's trying to, try to be preachy, you know. I'm trying to entertain first and foremost. So that's my main agenda before anything else. I mean, to be quite frank, that's my only agenda is to entertain. I'm definitely not trying to be preachy. I'm definitely not trying to get anybody to change their point of view on anything. I want to entertain you first and foremost. So,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
mhm,
I will say when you talk about kind of this meanness, and I fully agree, I'm wondering
uh-huh,
if like social media hasn't been a big tool for that, right? Because I think it's very easy to diminish other people when you're on Instagram or you're on X or right because there's not like it'd be really hard for me in front of you to say something negative about you. It's much
uh-huh,
easier to go on X and find you or on Blue Sky or wherever you're at, Instagram, and then say something, right? Because there's no consequence. There's no response that I
Right.
have to hear back from you. And I feel like it creates like this bravery in people to say things they would never say if they were in front of that person.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? So I don't know if I'm not saying that's the sole reason, but I have to believe that there has to be a little bit of the gasoline for that kind of I don't know, those kind of actions that people take on people they never even met before. I don't know what you feel about that, or if you see other things that are kind of feeling that as well.
It's so easy to blame social media for stuff. It is
Hmm.
such the obvious answer, but it's the reason in this case because we used to live in a society, where we had gatekeepers. Gatekeepers kind of sort of become a pejorative, but sometimes gatekeepers are necessary, believe it or not. And so with social media, you're able to eliminate those gatekeepers, and you're able to kind of sort of curate your own little bubble where you're only receiving certain types of information or you're only giving off information to a certain type, people who have the same sort of mindset as you. And it sort of just becomes like, I know I'm using all these buzzwords for people like maybe playing bingo or something. It sort of just becomes like an echo chamber.
Yeah.
And, we're losing diversity. And I don't mean diversity in the way, when you say that word, it's also become a pejorative. I don't mean diversity necessarily racially. I just mean like I saw somebody say the other day that music landscape has changed because we don't have regional artists anymore. And the reason we don't have the regional artists is because of the internet. We don't even have regional slang and dialect like we used to because of the internet. Everybody sort of speaks the same language, which is the internet language. And there's a lot of like things that we've lost because of social media. And so one of those things is the diversity of region, diversity of where you're from,
Hmm.
little things like that. They add a lot to character and they add a lot to the community. We used to have events that no matter where you were from, no
Yeah.
matter how you were raised, no matter who you voted for, we sat down and we watched them together as a community. I think the only thing that you could probably say is like that still is the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But you
Good
know,
point.
we used to have the Super Bowl. We used to watch the Oscars. We used to watch the final episode of, the most popular sitcom. We had appointment viewing TV. We had appointment films. We had cultural milestones that were shared. That's sort of been eliminated. We don't have that anymore because we get to decide what we want to watch, who we want to talk to, how we want to talk to, how we want to watch it, which is a big part of how media is consumed. So social media, the thing that was supposed to make us more connected, has actually made us more insular, and it's kind of disconnected us. So when you're kind of living your own way, you lose patience. You become a little bit more urgent when it comes to little things, which in turn makes you meaner. So it all kind of just rolls into each other. So it's all related.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's such a good point, man. And I'll be honest, man, whenever I do interviews, I feel like this kind of a platform, like I don't know when I would have this kind of conversation with you, Sheldon, to be honest.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? So, well, like, I don't know what the answer is, but to have communication, I feel like that's like a lost art anymore because of social media. And again, I know we're blaming a lot on social media, but I think there's certainly good for sure, but there's a lot of
Uh-huh.
negatives too. And I feel like the impact of those negatives we don't really spend time on to really fully understand. And I agree with you, man. I'm from Southern California. There is
Uh-huh.
a culture in Southern California that's different than anywhere else, especially when you get closer to
Right.
LA. I grew up in San Bernardino. Now I'm in Texas, right? And there's a
Uh-huh.
big culture here, right? That's different. But you're starting to see it kind of just all blend together. And so
Uh-huh.
when you meet someone from the South, you don't even know they're from the South. And you you meet someone from
Right.
Minnesota, like you can't even tell the difference anymore, right? Because I feel
Yet.
like that's all been removed because we're like this global community now because of social
Uh-huh.
media, you know?
Yeah, and I'll give you a free
Yeah.
story for Marvel. It's never gonna happen. So you talked about coming up with stories for other characters. So I came up with a Deadpool story where he's trying to prove himself as a superhero. And there's kind of sort of like this God character, this little stand-in for God in the story. He's like, oh, you're not a superhero. Well, I'll grant you my powers for 24 hours. And if you can solve it, you can solve world peace. then it will allow you to be a superhero. So Deadpool, he tries all these things like mass surveillance. He tries everything in the book to try to create world peace, and he finally cracks it. You know what he does? He eliminates all comments on the internet. He gets rid of the comment section on the internet, and he's able to solve world peace. So that was kind of like the punchline in the kick of the book. So
Hey, you know what's funny is it might work.
yeah, it's worth a try.
All right, let's jump in, man. We got Laneka, we have Karen, and we got Deidre. Who
Yeah.
are these characters, man? How'd you come up with these three, right? They're really good friends. They
Uh,
notice all these things that are happening within their community, and there's a frustration that
mhm.
there's an unrighteousness that's taking place when all of these negative things are taking place within their community, and they start to come together like we're just going to take this into our own hands and we're going to take care of what we thinks is the righteous judgment for these people who are getting away with these tragic things, and a lot of it is young black men losing their life.
Uh-huh.
So can you kind of walk into where do these three women come from? Are these like real people that you know that you've thrown in the story, or like
Mhm.
walk us through because they're very interesting ladies, and as you go through the story, right, you start to be able to relate to one more than the other. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, this is just an amalgamation of my sister basically and all her friends and that would come through the door growing up. And just some of the conversations that I would hear them having and some of the conversations that were happening just in the world as I was writing the story. So these guys are kind of stand-ins for that mentality that I was hearing. And there was a lot of frustration, still is, with some of these things that were going on. And you start to hear little comments like, well, we take matters into our own hands, which kind of ties back to the vigilantism that I was talking about. And I can certainly relate to the frustration and understand the frustration, but I'm not really sure if that's the answer, if you know what that would entail. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? It's really easy to say, hey, we're gonna go down this journey of extrajudicial killing, but do you know what the consequence of that is? Do you know about the collateral damage that that's going to create? Do you know everything that comes with killing another person, killing another man, even a bad person? That person's connected to somebody some way. You know, are you prepared for that? Do you think that you can kill a person and then just go about your business the next day at work? This is something you just roll out of bed and decide that you got to do. This is something that you're going to have to prepare yourself for. This is something that you're going to have to live with the consequences of doing.
Mhm.
And so I just kind of sort of want to examine that. I always try to pepper anything that I write with a little bit of real world stuff that's going on at the time that I'm seeing. Um, in this case, when I wrote it, it just kind of just worked out with the timing, with the release and everything like that. But these things were going on when I wrote it. So it just worked out. My favorite film of all time is it's a film called Children of Men, which you've
Mhm.
probably seen it. If you haven't, you should.
Yeah.
And they did a revisit of it a couple years ago, and they were asking the director, like, how were you able to predict these things? How are you able to predict it? And he got kind of upset a little bit almost. He said, I didn't predict anything. These things were happening at the time when I wrote it. You just weren't paying attention.
Mhm.
And so I don't want to seem like I'm the most prescient person in the world, but yeah, it was going on at the time that I wrote it, and then the timing with the release, it just synced up with everything.
Yeah. Incredible, man. Incredible. Well, the way issue two ends, right? I feel like they come together. They really go all in on this vigilante. They're taking some of these amazing black heroes, and on their birthdays, they're
Uh,
executing right judgment on someone that, in their eyes, feels deserves it, right? And probably rightfully
yeah,
so, right? But what I really enjoy, like, if you love history, this is a good opportunity for people to really pay attention to those birthdays and to dig into who
uh,
each of these individuals are. And I really love that aspect of your storytelling too, man. You're taking real life, like pillars, within culture, and you're bringing them to life. So I would say anybody that jumps into this, man, definitely pay attention to those birthdays and look up those people that Sheldon mentions, those birthdays, because I think that is another aspect of your story that just brings in like another layer.
And quick little preview of next issue. Slight spoilers, but there's a perversion of those birthdays coming next issue.
Ooh.
And I would also encourage you, once you see those birthdays, to look them up as well.
All
So
right.
it's
Fair
pretty
enough.
interesting coming next issue. Yeah, it's a nice little reverse of what's going on.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome, man. Okay, so we jump into issue. So issue one, man, just jam packed. They're laying their version of justice like all over the place, right? And then it kind of
Mhm.
slows down a little bit.
Uh,
And probably rightfully so, right? It's getting really hot.
uh,
Maybe law enforcement's obviously they don't know who it is, but they're getting closer
uh,
and closer to possibly like maybe cracking. Like we think we might know what's going on and getting closer. So they all kind of lay low. They go back about their life, and you can see that it doesn't seem at least one of them is not super happy, kind of
uh,
being in that life. Doesn't really know where she belongs to society. It almost became her person being this vigilante. And then we jump into issue two, and there's a birthday. And all of a sudden, by the end of it, they're drawn right back into it. Um,
uh,
and not all of them were aligned with doing it within that fashion. And I feel like they're kind of
uh,
going against the way that they would plan everything normally. So I don't know in your eyes if maybe they're just getting a little loose in how they're doing things. And will that kind of, again, spoilers, we know we can't go there, but I feel like
mhm.
maybe the way they handled this last one might create some more issues in issue three because not as much thought and planning went into this last murder. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, it absolutely makes sense.
Yeah.
There's no accidents in anything that I write. Everything's kind of sort of a seed that, it may go where you think it is, or it may go in a totally different direction, but it's not there by accident, is the point.
Yeah.
But there's also a conversation actually in issue three, which is actually a double-sized issue, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Double-sized issue for those of you who don't know. There's a conversation about, what are we even doing anymore? Are we still doing this for the reasons that we started, or are we doing this because, as messed up as it sounds and as psycho as it sounds, maybe we kind of sort of just enjoy it. What's the reason that we're doing this? So issue three kind of sets up the finality of the entire series. I'll just give you a quick preview of issue four. Issue four, man, is no lie. It's not probably it's the best anything I've ever written in my life. If I had to pick any book that I'm most proud of, it would be issue four. Issue four is you see the Inglorious Bastards where it says, I think this may be my masterpiece. I think issue four might be my masterpiece. Shout out to the colorist also. You'll know when you see it. Danielle Caramico, he did his thing that issue. Issue four is going to be another big reveal. And then issue five, our conclusion is it's just insane. And I would just say this about issue five. It has a sequence in there. It's about a 4-page sequence in there that's probably the best comic book sequence I've ever written. There's like a five. You'll know it. You trust me. You will know it when you see it in issue five. So that's kind of setting up the next three issues. So yeah, the current issue out, issue two, is an important issue because, like you said, it shows the kind of how can you kill a bunch of people and then kind of sort of just go back to what you were doing before.
Hey, you're never the same, right? You're just never the same.
Yeah, you're never the same. And we kind of just examining some of that, what their lives are like when they're not doing those things and how they get that sort of rush, that jolt once they get pulled back into it with no hesitation. But like you said, well, maybe we're a little sloppy doing it, maybe kind of rushed into it. So, we got to see what the fallout from that is going to be. But there, anything that I write also, there's always got to be a fallout. There's always got to be some sort of comeuppance, good, bad, or otherwise. Things just don't happen, and then it's not addressed.
I love it, man. I love it. I'm gonna pull up the AWA website just so people could see the covers right here. You could see here's issue two. Let me go back one just so you can see it. Here's issue one right here, issue two. Both of these are in stores right now. If they still have
Uh,
any left, you'll be able to get your hands on that. If not, your stores could definitely order this for you. And here's issue three, which we're expecting. Let me see. Oh, let me click on it. No. When does issue three come out? This is the double sized one that's coming, right? Is it in two
I
weeks?
think I think it might either be next week or the week after.
Okay. I'm gonna put it down.
Yeah.
I'll put the date down
Uh-huh.
in the info for all of you so that you'll be able to know exactly when it's coming with the lunar code and all that good stuff. So you could ask your stores to make sure
Appreciate
they
it.
have it. But yeah, man, the art is incredible. I think it's Mauricio Campalea, if I pronounce that right.
Compatella. Yeah, Compatella.
Campatella,
Yep.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Campatella, yeah. So the art is dope, man. The art looks really good, and that cover for issue five is freaky as hell, bro.
Yeah, that's Raza. He's the guy who's done all the covers. It's, it's,
Mm.
it's just Raza. He's up there with Madonna, Prince. That it's just Raza. And
Yeah,
listen, I posted the other day. I said he's on a generational run with these covers right here. And when I saw that issue five, I was in disbelief. I mean, actually, every the thing I love about the covers is that they all tie into the issue somehow.
mm,
So it's like, all right, he's actually reading the book.
yeah.
These covers actually tie into what's going on and they relate to what's in the issue. And as you can see, the issue five cover is pretty bloody.
Yep.
So that kind of gives you a bit of a preview of what's going to happen in issue five.
Right when you said that, all I was thinking about, there's a lot of blood on that cover, man.
So it's definitely not going to disappoint if that's what you're looking for in that issue.
Well, so far, man, congratulations, Sheldon. I really enjoyed the first two issues. Definitely touches on, I think, matters that a lot of people, they're just uncomfortable, but I think you have to talk about it, man, to understand them.
Uh,
And congratulations on the first two issues. I'm really looking forward to that double size issue three because now I'm hooked on these three ladies to figure out what the hell is going to happen after this last murder. Because I just felt the way it ended, man, it could go in a lot of bad ways the way they were handling everything. So maybe I'm wrong, but I can't wait to find out. That's for sure.
Nah, man, I appreciate it. And you said something. Probably my favorite compliment that I get from people who have read the book is, man, I love these ladies. I love them. Like I feel like I've met them, or I want to know them, or I met them. That's like my favorite comment. So whenever I hear somebody says that, it really does something for me.
Yeah, I mean, they're so different individually, and obviously they're friends. And then specifically from that vigilante aspect, they are all one with what they're trying to accomplish. How it's being
Uh,
executed is probably a little different in each one of their minds, but they're definitely one in what they want to do. At least initially in issue one, it'll be interesting to see if that kind of oneness that they have kind of goes through the rest of these issues, or if you start to
uh,
see some of them like, man, I don't know, and maybe breaking away from it. Like there's so many different ways it could go. I was just thinking in my head. So again, no spoilers, I get it, but man, it's getting really
uh,
interesting, and I cannot wait to find out, man.
yeah, the heat definitely is going to get turned up, and you're going to be in for a journey. Trust me.
I love it. Well, let's talk a little bit, at least what you're able to outside of They Choose Violence. You have anything else kind of going on from a writer's perspective that you are able to talk about that you want people to know outside of this title, or is this what you're working on right now only?
Man, they choose violence is that's where all my attention is
Yeah,
right now.
yeah,
I do have another book that's coming out with AWA, but I'll let them announce that when the
yep,
time is right. But yeah, they choose violence. Listen, we're full steam ahead till we get to issue five.
yeah. Now, is it a beginning, middle, and end? So at issue five, it's over, or is there an opportunity for more after? Did you kind of like leave a door in there in issue five, or this is a full story and you're done at five?
I mean, it's comics, so you can never say
Yeah, that's true.
that something is over. But from my end, we're done at issue
Okay.
five. The story's done. There is a character that's going to be introduced in issue four that I would love to do like a one shot about later on down the road, maybe.
Yeah,
But as far as continuing stories with these three ladies, I think we're one and done.
I
This is absolutely a limited series as far as I'm concerned.
I love it,
Now,
man.
who knows? 10 years from now, maybe I pull a Michael Mann and Heat Two, and I'm like, hey, we're gonna do another version of They Choose Violence.
Yeah.
But yeah, limited series as far as I'm concerned.
I love it. Well, Sheldon, congratulations, my friend, on your career and obviously on this title. Everybody, everything's going to be below the link to AWA, all of Sheldon's socials, and also I'll make sure I put the lunar code for issues 3 and beyond. That way you can get into your comic book shops and let them know to go ahead and order that for you, put it in your box. It's only 5 issues, so you are going to get a complete story. And that's one of the things I love about AWA. Even if it's an arc, you're still going to get a full story. It's done. And then when you wait
Uh-huh.
till next year to see what happens, that's normally what AWA does. So I do enjoy that about AWA. And that's why I end up reading a lot of AWA stuff because I know, man, I'm going to get a really good story and it's going to push envelopes like crazy, man. AWA does not mess around. They really give a lot of creative freedom to be able to tell these kind of stories. And I enjoy them because of that.
Man, I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me. If I could just say one more thing,
Oh, please.
the songs at the end of each issue, please, if you're not familiar with them, go on ahead,
Yeah,
go on ahead to YouTube, give them a listen. They have relevance to everything that's gone on with the
that's
issue.
right.
Um, Maybe you'll discover some songs you've never heard before. But please, yeah, the songs aren't there just to be there.
Yeah.
I would really appreciate it if you guys could listen to those songs when you see them.
I love it, man. Well, Sheldon, thank you for hanging out with me on a weekend, man. Really appreciate it. It's a pleasure meeting you. And I hope we could do this again whenever your next title comes out, man. I'd love to have you back on and help get the word out there for you.
Man, I appreciate you, man. You invite me and I'll be there.
All right, Sheldon. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday, and we will talk soon, my friend. Thank you again.
Peace.
Peace.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.